Pat Nee has been linked to a host of misdeeds during Whitey Bulger's trial, including the 1981 killing of Deborah Davis and the 1982 murders of Brian Halloran and Michael Donahue. But today, Judge Denise Casper let Nee leave court without testifying, after his attorney said he'd just take the fifth. For Michael Donahue's son, Tommy, it was an incredibly frustrating moment.
Why isn't he up there? You know what I mean? This is a guy who killed not only my father, but was around countless murders. Deborah Davis, Bucky Barrett. You know, he's one of the ones that helped Bucky Barrett there until Whitey and them could rob his house and rob his club, and then they killed him. He dug holes for people. I don't know what the hell the problem is with the prosecution not having this guy up on charges. I really don't.
Instead, we heard from former FBI agents James Crawford and Fred Davis, who said that during Bulger's heyday, he was enabled by a chaotic and corrupt Boston FBI office. Also discussed at length whether Bulger was or wasn't an FBI informant, an issue that has no legal relevance, but that both sides seem obsessed with. The day closed with Judge Casper pressing Bulger's lawyers on whether or not Bulger will take the stand. Their answer? A resounding maybe.
And Adam Reilly is here, along with Peter Gelzinis of the Boston Herald. Welcome.
Hey, Jared.
So, Adam, it was sort of operatic. Here you have this huge figure, Pat Nee, who everybody, by all accounts, had some association. He's already spent, 10 or 11 years in prison for other crimes. Right. Goes into the courtroom today and then goes out nearly as quickly as he came.
Doesn't say a word. I was outside court waiting for him, not inside court, when there was a sidebar at which he didn't speak. Didn't say a word to the media on the way out. And as you say, he's popped up again and again at various bad things that we've heard about over the course of the Whitey Bulger trial, including, we heard from Tommy Donahue, Michael Donahue's son. This is one of the biggies, that Nee, according to Stephen Flemmi, Bulger's former partner, was in the car with Bulger when they tracked down, shot and killed Brian Halloran, who was an FBI informant, and also this guy, Michael Donahue, who happened to give him a ride home. But yeah, his name keeps popping up. Someone's brought to South Boston to be killed. Nee is there, and then he sort of vanishes afterward. And it is strange to think that he hasn't been charged on, that there's been no investigation as far as we know of.
It sounds like
Tommy
Donahue is positing some theories there. I mean, this is a man who is in the same league, it would appear, as Martirano and Stephen Flemmi, other people who've spent days on the stand. So why wouldn't he be up there?
What's stranger still is that, he's written a book and he's about to be the star of a reality TV show.
Launching this week.
So, launching, I think, Friday night. And so it would have been interesting, obviously, if one of the lawyers was able to talk about the contradiction there of wanting to celebrate the fact that he's led a criminal life and in South Boston, and yet not wanting to face questions in this situation.
Tommy Donahue is urging Dan Connolly, the Suffolk County DA, to pursue an investigation of Pat Nee on these potential murder charges.
Yeah, because they say other statute of limitations applies, so he can't be charged for other charges, but murder doesn't.
Right. So we'll see what happens with that after the trial.
Why was he going to be called? I mean, he said he was going to plead the fifth anyway, but what did Carney want to hear from him as a defense witness? I think if he'd taken the stand, Carney or Brennan for Bulger would have tried to say that Nee was the one who committed some of the killings that we've heard about, that it was, maybe Nee, not Bulger, who fired the shots that took Halloran and Donahue's lives. For example, another possibility, though, is that in addition to that, the defense would have just tried to say, look, here's a guy who's done bad things. Why hasn't the government gone after him? Well, they're going after our client, James Whitey Bulger. So it would have been a kind of a double-edged.
And for the first time, Flemmi actually sort of put him into the Halloran Donahue murder. In previous trials, Kevin Weeks has talked about it, but has always sort of said it was either Nee or this other gentleman, and who's dead. So, but Flemmi actually, first time that I remember, talked about a meeting between the principals in that situation a day after at Carson Beach. And Nee talking about or complaining about the fact that his gun jammed, and that's really, I think, the most vivid kind of account of him sort of connected with that, and I'm sure that would have been part of the questions.
Well, it'll be interesting to see what happens to Nee post Bulger.
Yeah, definitely.
But meanwhile, the trial is beginning to wrap up. I know there are a number of witnesses left, but there's speculation it could wrap up within the week, and of course, is it going to end with Whitey Bulger? Adam, as you said, there was a definitive maybe today.
Huge tease today. You know, a lot of us thought that at the end of today's session we'd get an answer one way or another. And when Judge Casper asked Jay Carney to sort of run through who the defense planned to call tomorrow and the day after, he closed with John Martirano, Bulger's former associate, who's going to come back for allegedly one question, identified Martirano as the final witness, and then said, and that may not be the end of the list. So they may already know, too. They might already know what they're going to do. And just
there's one theory that says he'll announce Friday that Whitey will take the stand, thereby ramping up the media anticipation for this to where it was at the beginning of the trial, because it's kind of, it's kind of gone up and down. And whether that happens, I don't know. I mean, he's certainly, Jay has done a complete about face from where he was a year ago.
Yeah, because we were always led to believe he would take.
I mean, he was telling me, he was working out, he was doing, alternate days, doing 150 sit-ups and push-ups, and just couldn't wait to get out there and tell his story, and which always kind of made sense to me, because and it was the most interesting part of this whole trial for me, was the idea that with all of this Bulger literature out there and Bulger lore, that he would finally come in and tell his own story. But the more you think about it, the more I think I don't buy I love Tony Cardinale, but I don't buy the idea it's simply because he's a jellyfish or a coward, he doesn't want to do it. I don't think Whitey is wired to take questions. I think this is a guy who's given orders pretty much all his life. And the idea of sitting up in a box, having somebody fire questions at you and being told you have to answer them. And I think Connie kind of knows he's probably not wired to do that. Whether he would just completely implode on the stand or not, I don't know. I mean, we've seen some of those flashes during the trial, and I also think about, when I think about it more, I also think about the connection to his brother. I mean, for all the erudition,
Senate President Bill Bulger.
Bill had, when he went down before the House Government Reform Committee in Washington and had to answer questions about, his connection to Whitey. I mean, all of that language failed him. It was a very torturous moment for him, and it went on for, pretty much all day.
And because I stole Whitey's own language for the show open and saying the big show. That's what he's always referred to this as, right? I mean, because we know that he's continued to try to craft this image as somebody who did not murder women, as somebody who was not a rat. But has he?
But I don't see. The other thing is, Tony Cardinale talks about him being afraid. What is there to be afraid of? I mean, I don't think this wasn't sort of like, people say, well, cover it like a boxing match. If this was a boxing match, it would have been a TKO on the first day. I mean, the defense didn't challenge 95% of what was laid out in front of them. I mean, there was that surgical focus.
He extorted, he laundered money, he killed, but just not these few people.
Yeah, there isn't. I mean, if he were to get off, it would be the nullification of all nullifications. I don't think anybody has any illusions about that. So I don't see what there is to worry about, except the idea that he could just come apart. The idea that he's just not suited to take this kind of interrogation.
If he does, either way, it's a pretty big show. So we'll wait to see if we're going to have the big climax or it'll be anticlimactic after all. Peter Gelzinis, Adam Reilly, thank you both.
Thanks, Jared.
Thank you.